As the Goldsworths' influence grew, so did the scale of their operations. They moved beyond minor border disputes and set their sights on larger conflicts. The narrator's voice takes on a slightly darker tone, reflecting the increasing moral compromises the family makes. The impending wars were not just opportunities, they were carefully orchestrated events. The Goldsworths subtly manipulated political tensions, using their wealth and influence to sow discord between nations. They funded propaganda campaigns, supported extremist groups, and even bribed government officials to push for war. Edward, now the head of the family, saw himself as a puppeteer, pulling the strings of global power. He believed that war was inevitable and that it was his duty to profit from it. His personal philosophy was simple: control the money, control the world. The Goldsworths' banks became the central nervous system of global conflict. They provided loans to governments to purchase weapons, knowing full well that those weapons would be used to kill and destroy. They financed the production of ammunition, uniforms, and other war materials, ensuring that both sides of the conflict were well equipped, and they profited handsomely from every transaction. The narrator's voice becomes more cynical, highlighting the absurdity and the tragedy of the Goldsworths' actions. The family's wealth grew exponentially, but at what cost? The Goldsworths insulated themselves from the human suffering caused by their actions. They lived in opulent mansions, surrounded by luxury and privilege, while millions suffered and died on the battlefields. They justified their actions by claiming that they were simply providing a service, that they were not responsible for how their money was used. But the truth was that they were actively profiting from death and destruction. As the wars raged on, the Goldsworths' influence reached its zenith. They became the de facto rulers of the world, their power extending far beyond the reach of any government or military. They controlled the flow of money, the lifeblood of nations, and they used that power to shape the world in their image. The narrator's voice becomes almost mournful, lamenting the loss of innocence and the triumph of greed. The Goldsworths had achieved their ultimate goal, but in doing so, they had lost their souls. They had become monsters, consumed by their own ambition. Their legacy was one of wealth, power, and moral bankruptcy. The family's grip on global finance tightened, their decisions shaping the course of nations with cold, calculated precision. They expanded their network of informants, ensuring they were always one step ahead of political and military developments. Their intelligence was unparalleled, allowing them to anticipate conflicts and position themselves for maximum profit. The Goldsworths became masters of deception, concealing their true motives behind a veneer of respectability and philanthropy. They understood the importance of public image and carefully cultivated a reputation for integrity and social responsibility. This facade allowed them to operate with impunity, shielding them from scrutiny and criticism. The narrator's voice drips with irony as he describes the Goldsworths' carefully constructed image. The family's insatiable greed knew no bounds, driving them to ever greater heights of wealth and power. They became addicted to the thrill of control, reveling in their ability to manipulate world events for their own benefit. The Goldsworths were now more than just bankers. They were architects of global conflict, orchestrating wars for profit. Their legacy was forever stained with the blood of millions. With their fingers in every pot, the Goldsworth family watched the world descend into chaos. As wars raged across continents, their wealth and power reached unprecedented levels. They became indispensable to warring nations, providing crucial loans and resources to fuel their war machines. Tanks rolled, planes soared, and bombs fell, all financed in part by the Goldsworths. While the world suffered immense loss and devastation, the Goldsworths remained untouched. Their coffers overflowed with blood money, each transaction a testament to their chilling success. The family patriarch, a man named Alistair Goldsworth, often mused over maps of Europe. He would trace the battle lines with a cold, calculating gaze. Every conflict, he'd say to his son, is merely an investment opportunity. His son, Edward, shared his father's cold pragmatism, seeing only numbers and potential gains. He saw nations as assets and war as a balance sheet. The narrator reveals the devastating consequences of their actions, highlighting the human cost of their greed. For every loan they granted, countless lives were lost. For every weapon they financed, families were torn apart. The Goldsworths, however, remained detached, insulated by their wealth and power. They saw themselves as above the fray, untouched by the suffering they enabled. Images of battlefields flashed across the screen, trenches filled with mud and blood. Devastated cities, once vibrant and full of life, now reduced to rubble and ash. Grieving families huddled together, their faces etched with sorrow and despair. These stark images juxtaposed the family's lavish lifestyle. Alistair and Edward dined in opulent restaurants, surrounded by luxury and comfort. They savored fine wines and delicacies, oblivious to the hunger and deprivation around the world. They toasted to their success, oblivious to the suffering they enabled. Their mansions stood as symbols of their prosperity, monuments built on the graves of the innocent. Each room was filled with priceless art and artifacts, acquired with blood money. The narrator's voice grew somber, reflecting on the ethical implications of their legacy. Was their wealth worth the price of so much suffering? Could their immense wealth ever truly compensate for the lives lost? Could any amount of money erase the destruction caused by their relentless pursuit of profit? The question hung in the air, unanswered and unsettling. Alistair, nearing the end of his life, began to question his choices. The weight of his actions began to bear down on him. He saw the world's pain reflected in his grandchildren's eyes. But Edward, blinded by ambition, saw only opportunity. He was eager to continue the family's legacy, no matter the cost. The Goldsworth legacy was secure, but at what cost? What would history say of their family? The camera pans over a vast cemetery, rows upon rows of white crosses stretching into the distance. The sheer scale of the graveyard was overwhelming. Each cross represents a life cut short, a victim of the Goldsworths' greed. The camera lingers on a single cross, a symbol of countless untold stories. The narrator's final words echo in the silence. Their name would be remembered, but would it be with respect or with disdain? Would they be remembered as titans of industry or merchants of death? The answer, like the Goldsworths' legacy, remained complex and morally ambiguous. It was a legacy built on both innovation and exploitation. The film fades to black, leaving the audience to ponder the true cost of war and the insatiable nature of greed. The silence is broken only by the faint sound of wind whistling through the cemetery. The audience is left to grapple with the uncomfortable truths presented. The Goldsworth story serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the corrosive power of wealth. It forces us to confront our own complicity in systems of exploitation. The film challenges us to consider the ethical implications of our choices and to ask ourselves what kind of legacy we want to leave behind. The credits roll slowly, accompanied by a haunting melody. The music underscores the film's themes of loss, greed, and moral ambiguity. The audience is left to reflect on the film's message long after the lights come up. The Goldsworth family's story serves as a mirror, reflecting back the darkest aspects of human nature, a reminder that the pursuit of wealth can come at a terrible price.